Oh, sorry, Michaela. Sorry about that. Do we call a roll here, Ethan? Can you call the roll? So we can confirm we have a quorum of commissioners, or Michaela?
If you'd like, David, I can just kind of intro on the slide and we can go through the Zoom controls and then open up the agenda. Does that sound good?
That sounds good. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Thanks. So Michaela, we good to go?
Yes, we are.
Great. My name is Ethan Britland. I'm the MassDOT project manager for the study that is providing support to the Morrissey Commission. On behalf of the rest of the project management team, I want to welcome you to the 4th meeting of the Morrissey Commission. I'm going to turn it over to Michaela Niles, also from MassDOT, the MassDOT PMT, project management team. She's also our Zoom operator, and she will go over some instructions before we formally open the commission meeting.
Thanks, Ethan. Yes, good morning again, and welcome everyone to this meeting. So before we launch into today's presentation and the discussion, I'd like to open with a few procedures for today's meeting. So first, please note that this meeting is being recorded. The Massachusetts Department of Transportation may choose to retain and distribute the video, still images, audio, and/or chat transcript. And by continuing attendance with this virtual meeting, you are consenting to participate in a recorded event. All recordings and chat transcripts will be considered a public record. So if you're not comfortable being recorded, please keep your microphone muted and refrain from utilizing the Q&A. All questions and comments are welcome and appreciated. We do, however, request that folks refrain from any disrespectful comments. And on the next slide, we talk a little bit more about some of the Zoom components. So commission members will have the opportunity to ask questions or share comments at points during the meeting today. To participate, you may use the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen, or if you're participating by phone, you may dial *9, and that will raise your virtual hand. We ask that you please keep your microphone muted unless speaking, and ask that all speakers begin by stating their name, and this will benefit everyone, especially those who are participating by phone today. Commission members will be able to share your video. You can keep your video on or off, but the main request is to minimize distractions for others who are viewing the presentation. Members of the public in attendance may submit comments or questions at any time in writing using the Q&A, and meeting staff will be able to address them as time allows towards the end of the meeting. You can view closed captions by clicking the closed captions feature and selecting either show subtitle or view full transcript. Show subtitle will display captions at the bottom of your screen, and view full transcript will display the meeting's audio transcription in a window to the right. And if you need any technical assistance at all, please contact Zoom technical support at 888-799-9666. So at this time, I would now like to turn it back over to the designee for the chair of the Morrissey Boulevard Commission, David Moeller from MassDOT.
Thank you, Michaela. I'd like to call this meeting to order. And Ethan, are you going to call a roll, or should I just ask the commissioners to raise their hand and introduce themselves?
So the format was for the commission members to introduce themselves as part of the next agenda.
Okay, so can the commission members please raise their hands so I can call them one at a time? Chris Osgood.
Chris Osgood, City of Boston.
Brian Arrigo.
Brian Arrigo, Commissioner for the Department of Conservation and Recreation.
Frank Baker.
Frank Baker, I'm the I'm the designee of Rep. David Beal from South Boston. Thank
Dan
you.
Mullen.
David Mullen, a representative for Barbara Karonke, Executive Director for the UMass Building Authority.
Thank you, David. Councilor John Fitzgerald.
John Fitzgerald, District 3, Boston City Council.
Representative Hunt.
Dan Hunt, representative from the 13th Suffolk.
Are there any other commission members present at this time? Don't see anyone with their hand raised. All right, Ethan, go on.
Okay, next slide, please. So this is the approval of a status report submission. Due to the legislature on June 1st was the report of findings, but clearly we're still chugging through our technical work, and we have another commission meeting. So We were asked to provide just a short briefing status report to file with the legislature, just work completed to date. We have sent that to the commission members. It's in the pipeline to be posted online. It should be posted very soon if it's not live as of right now. So we just wanted to turn it back to the commission members for discussion. We have a staff member on hand who could just walk through the details of it at a high level if you'd like. But David, I defer to you on how you'd like to handle the format.
Yeah, why don't you have, I assume the staff member is Patrick, but whoever the staff member is, why don't you have them go through a quick review of the status report so people in the public who may not have had a chance to look at it yet can know what we're submitting to the legislature.
Okay, thank you. Patrick, go ahead. Please go ahead. Camera on and unmute.
Okay. Would you like me to share the PDF of the letter or just sort of run through it?
I think it's okay to share it and just skim through just to give a sense of what it looks like and then just hit the high points. Thank you.
And just a moment, please. Can everyone see the status report?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the status report that we have put together as our team at MassDOT. At the moment, it takes a form of a high-level letter explaining the work that's been done to date and some of the background on the commission. We have it addressed to the clerks of the Senate and the House, as well as the chairs of the Ways and Means Committees in the Senate and the House. That's per the commission legislation. We open it with some background on how the commission was formed and the members of the commission. And we start to present a little bit of the background, which includes the commission language about the Morrissey Boulevard Commission mandate. We also include some more background on the nuance of the study as it relates to climate change and congestion. Some more background.
If I may,
Yes.
Patrick, yes. Why does this include South Boston? If you can scroll back. I don't know why this report includes South Boston at all. I mean, we're talking about the Seaport District and all the place parts of Boston. I don't understand why that's in there. And it's been a pet peeve of mine throughout the whole ordeal so far that other parts of, even though there's tangential connection, maybe some studies were already underway, that it creeps into another part of the city, in my district, quite frankly, moving away from Morrissey Boulevard. I'm hoping that can get focused to the charge. Because it's just odd to have the charge of the commission that's laid out in legislation and then DOT officials adding all these other things. It just doesn't sit well.
Commissioner Collins, if I could jump in real quick on that. That paragraph is merely just meant to set the context of the area we're looking at in terms of the regional geography. So it wasn't necessarily meant to say that is the focus of this effort. So it's really just background context, but we can certainly tweak the language.
Understandably, except it's not in isolation.
Understood.
In every meeting we prior to, there's been a back and forth about how the plan and the slides. I mean, you got Old Colony Ave in this stuff. You got Preble Circle, Petrushka Circle, Andrew Square. I mean, that's been a constant back and forth. And again, there's specific language in the commission because it is a significant portfolio from one part of Morrissey Boulevard to the other. That though, in the aftermath of Kosciuszko Circle heading towards South Boston, there'll be impacts. There's just seems to be a lot of effort to discuss, berms at Moakley Park and things that are heading up towards and into South Boston that I hope we can put on another agenda for the other commission that's in play.
Thank you. Sorry.
If there are no further comments from commission members on this portion of the report, I can continue. After we review the background in this letter, we move into a summary of what has been completed to date. This is all very high level. We explain that we've had 3 commission meetings so far. Of course, this is the 4th one, and if desired, we can put that in here as well. And also explain about our K-Circle Morrissey Boulevard joint study team with the City of Boston and DCR, as well as the BPDA. And an explanation of the work that we've presented at the prior commission meetings, as well as the current status of the study team and what we're working on, which includes refining the alternatives development based on the feedback we received at the 3rd commission meeting last month or earlier this month. And we're working on the alternatives analysis to compare them with the traffic information that we have and the other evaluation criteria that has been developed. And we also have some notes about the public involvement process that has been carried out and what we've heard from members of the public who are also here with us today. And then we close out the letter. So at this point, we can open it up to further comments from commission members on the letter, if they'd like to provide those.
Yep, give me a second, just to let everyone know that the secretary is now on and she will be assuming the chair. Secretary, we're at the point where staff has updated the commission on the status report, and we're about to take comments and then take a vote to approve the submission of the status report.
Thank you, David.
You're welcome. So now, if anybody who has a comment on the commission, please raise your hand and the secretary will call on you.
Senator Collins.
Thank you, Secretary. So in this report, does it make any recommendations other than option to extend, or is it just kind of laying out what we've done and this and what we're going to continue to do? Because I guess, are we sanctioning, decisions, or not sanctioning, but are we voting on a list of priorities, or just sort of affirming what commission's done so far and what we're looking to continue to do?
Secretary, I think I can answer that. This is just a status report, so the approval of this report makes no binding commitment by the commission about any ultimate alternatives that we may propose or select.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do any other commissioners have questions?
Councilor Fitzgerald here. I just want to bring up one point, whereas I know we're calling this the 4th meeting, but I know in the community, they're thinking it more like 4 public meetings. And so I just don't want the rhetoric to get people out there confused as, oh, they had the 4th commission meeting already. And, before the deadline, and they snuck this one in on us. And I just want to be careful about the messaging about calling this the 4th meeting. Although maybe it technically is, and we can't do anything about that. But just for folks to understand that there is still, hopefully, if we are taking a vote today to extend this, future meetings to occur to discuss this topic as it's still ongoing.
Yes, absolutely. It was not our intent to imply that this was the 4th and final meeting. This is just the 4th meeting, as you noted, in the series. There will definitely be a 5th meeting, and depending on what happens today, there could be even more than another meeting after this. But thank you, Councilor.
Oh, thank you very much.
Chris?
I'm Secretary. This comment may be sort of out of sequence thinking of the next item on the agenda, but if we do choose to extend, or regardless, frankly, I think sort of the work of the commission should sort of name some of the engagement work that Councilor Fitzgerald was just talking about. Also sort of underscore that we are not just looking to sort of come up with a design at the end of this, but an implementation plan to build from the good momentum of this commission to actually put in place the recommendations that that come from the community consensus. And then I'm mindful that in the initial legislation, there was sort of a specific comment about sort of near-term actions, and I just want to make sure that we're referencing that in some of the report recommendations that follow.
Thank you, Chris. Senator Collins?
Thank you. So not really on the report, but in general, I know that was sort of explained earlier, but well, in at least referenced earlier, but the iterations. So when this began, it was under the previous administration. There was discussion to let the new administration coming in be able to establish themselves to launch into this, along with paring down a little bit and giving the chair to the DOT secretary in order to do this. And I just want to thank you and your team for pulling what we pulled together so far this year in compliance with the law. And if we are able to extend it, we'll continue. But I just want to say that up front here, that I want to thank your team for pulling things together and in a short period of time, getting a lot of dialogue going, a lot of feedback, and putting the work that the agency's done out there with their partners and consultants. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Any other questions or comments from the commissioners? Okay, I will turn it back over to Ethan.
Great, thank you, Secretary. If we could go back to the slide deck, Patrick.
Okay, one moment, please.
Great.
Actually, for Secretary, for the record, can we get a vote of the commissioners to approve our submission of this status report?
Yes,
Okay,
David, thank you.
Thank you, Secretary.
So does this need to be a motion, David?
I'll make a motion, this is Dan Hunt, to approve the status report.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay. David, can you call the roll?
I believe Ethan can.
Okay.
I think we could just
All in
favor, aye.
Robert's rules.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, if you'd like to do a roll call, Secretary, I'm fine with that.
I would say let's be, for the public, let's go ahead and do a roll call.
Okay, great. Let's see, I'll just go down the list from my order, top to bottom. Chris Osgood, Commissioner Osgood.
Yes.
Commissioner Baker.
Aye.
Commissioner Mullen.
Yes.
Commissioner Rigo.
Yes.
Commissioner Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Commissioner Hunt.
Aye.
And Commissioner Tibbetts-Nutt.
Yes.
And Commissioner Collins.
Aye.
Oh, and I'm sorry. I see now Commissioner Jemison is on the call.
Yeah, I'm also in favor.
Thank you. The motion passes. And so next slide. And so this next is to discuss deadline extension. The current deadline is June 1st, 2024. I turn it back to you, Commissioner Tibbetts-Nutt.
Thank you. Okay, so we had a discussion about this at the previous meeting about the potential extension. This was raised by Senator Collins's designee and Representative Hunt. So at this point, I would like to open a discussion about this. Representative, would you or the senator like to open up this discussion?
I'm happy to speak, but can defer to Rep. Hunt.
The designee had made a motion to get a vote, and I clarified that it was beyond our own ability to simply extend, and had clarified for him that it needed to be legislative to be in law. Obviously, we're up against it. So I think that it makes sense to request that the legislature extends our charge formally. That said, I think we've heard from the public loud and clear that we don't want to do this for an extended period of time. So I think whatever is practical, we tend not to, or tend to try to not to have major public meetings during the summer months, which would be July and August. I think 30 days is too much, and I think a year is 30 days is too short, and a year is too long. So I think something that would be reasonable would be by the middle of November or something like that, have a real formal beefed up report to the legislature, and hopefully have decisions made earlier than that.
To follow up on Rep. Hunt's points, I think I'd agree that sort of an unending commission is not what the public's looking for. But to maybe give a little bit more breathing room to both public discourse and the production of a report, maybe to extend it to the end of the year, December 31st. So, obviously about 6 weeks more than the middle of November, but not to say we need it, but to give it, the time that's needed to, if we have to get into the report, and to, like today, be in a position to digest it, because it's obviously going to be more thorough than the status report. So that's just something that I would be in favor of, is extending it, later this year, but to give us the space end of the year.
So I guess my thought on that is that generally, once you get past November, you get into Thanksgiving and then into Christmas and other holidays. I don't think it makes sense to have public meetings during that period of time. So if the thought is to extend it to December 31st, then that should be for the report, and that all public meetings should have taken place prior to the middle of November.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So Secretary, if I can clarify, the motion will be for the submission of the report deadline, and in order to submit a report by the end of December, we will have to have concluded the public process by probably mid-November, maybe even a little earlier, in order for us to do all the necessary work to get the report written, get it submitted to the legislature, be done. So I think both the senator and the rep are talking about the same thing. The deadline is for the report submittal, but we will not be having meetings in December. We will be done before Thanksgiving with the substantive work, if this is the motion that people are going to vote on.
We're just having a discussion. There isn't a motion on the floor yet.
Yeah, I think that's right. That well, I imagine long before the Thanksgiving season, we should be done with these meetings probably by the end of October, quite frankly. But to give the time that's needed to produce it, I think that will be necessary. But I agree with Rep. Hunt and David as well that the public process shouldn't be rubbing up against the deadline. given that we've had time. And I think today's, an example of without, I think, because of the transition in the, with administrations and then within the agency that, got a lot done in a short period of time. But I know, to Rep. Hunt's point, the folks that we represent are looking for action. So ongoing debate is not something that we'll want to pursue, but having a full public process with enough time to produce a report, I think sensible. So I think we can modify the timeline. I guess, is that something that we want to do today, or in short order, is commit to a public schedule? So we're not, I know it was sort of a back and forth, and the press sort of was channeling the, sort of anxiety of the community. This is a very, very important valve of transportation to all of Dorchester and beyond. So, it's got a lot of attention. We have 50 people on hit, and 9:30 on a Friday online. So maybe, I don't know if that's something we can and should do today. So there is an affirmation of the public that, we have our stuff together. It's, a handful of community meetings that will end by X date, in conjunction with a date for a full report to be due. That's something that makes sense if we can discuss what's achievable. I think Rep. Hunt, laid out the limitations for public meetings that will be sort of off limits, so to speak. Not to say that people can't have their, meetings that are tangential or germane, but as far as official commission meetings, I don't know if that's something that we can hash out today, but I think it'd be really important to have a schedule up front of, we're meeting for this date, this date, and this date. And that would suffice, I think, for both the public's expectations, the commission's expectations of what our timeline is on completing the public process prior to getting into the production of the final report.
Thank you, Senator. I'm going to call on the commissioners in the order that I see them on my screen. I'm going to start with Commissioner Baker. You're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you to the commission and everybody that's here today. I agree with both the rep and the senator going to December, have a definite end date, but use December for just our reporting out. My question is, and sorry to keep bringing this up, but at what point do we discuss Kosciuszko Circle? Do we just leave that off the table for the rest of the 6 months here? Do we get into a whole nother round of planning for that next year? Or because for me, I thought this commission, we would at least be discussing or have an idea of what's happening with Kosciuszko Circle.
Ethan, can you speak to that?
Okay. So Commissioner Baker, the Kosciuszko Circle, K-Circle, that's definitely a separate project from the study and that we're doing. But it has its own process. So yes, it will be having its own public participation, its own outreach. But as a study team, we are wrapping it into our work as much as possible. Again, it is a prominent piece in the northern area of our study. And so to the extent that we can coordinate information back and forth between the project development team on K-Circle and our study, we're coordinating as closely as possible. But we have said from the beginning that that is a separate process and project. But we will do our best to give as much information as possible as we go through the remainder of our study side.
Thank you. I think just because to make informed decisions on what's going to happen on Morrissey Boulevard from the stretch the Globe to Freeport Street and beyond, I think we have to have some sense of what the thought is with Kosciuszko Circle, because it all ties in together. It all literally is part of the same commute in or walk in, and you know, maybe a little bit of information as we're making decisions on Morrissey Boulevard, like, because they literally have to connect, and then moving north past Kosciuszko Circle, we have to have a sense of what that is going to look like. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Osgood?
Thanks so much, Secretary. Just wanted to sort of agree with many of the comments that you've already made, which I think that an extension is appropriate. Having a time-limited extension also makes a lot of sense. To the representative's point, perhaps wrapping up all community meetings by mid-November, submitting the report to the senator's point by the end of the calendar year. Again, I would want to make sure that we are using that additional time to really do three things, although Councilor Baker's point perhaps as a fourth to this, which is sort of deepening the engagement, which we're doing in the community. Second, sort of really honing in on an implementation plan to take the 15% design forward. And third, making sure that we are identifying near-term actions that we can put in place as we are doing the longer term work. And perhaps this additional timeline gives us an ability to ensure that we're syncing the Morrissey Boulevard work with the Kosciuszko Circle work. I will pass back to you, Secretary, or over to Chief Jemison.
Thank you. Commissioner Jemison?
Thanks. I'm in support of the extension. I'm in support of the extension as described, where the work and the meetings take place before Thanksgiving, and then the reports prepared in the last part of the year. But so I'm good with the January 1, 2025 deadline. I would want to. I do also like the Senator's recommendation about a series of public meetings that should be announced and come out of the request for extension, so those meeting dates are set and we can use them as we can build around them. I did have a couple of other points I wanted to share. I do think, you know, we should, and again, these are markers that that I think we need to maybe set. I'm happy to talk about them further if we get past this item. You know, basically, we need to have a comprehensive plan here that sort of says, is in addition to making this recommendation, here's how we're planning to implement it with some identified first actions, ideally some identified first actions physically. And I think we also need to have some defined, take a vote on some of the concept designs and make sure that we're saying we're going forward with something, you know, general, and then we've got some first steps that are going to happen. Again, the short-term investments are really important signals that we're moving this really important agenda forward. I'll pass it back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Representative Hunt? You're on mute.
How did I sound? Was it perfect?
Awesome.
Great, thank you. No, would just like to echo that. At the last meeting, a lot of new alternatives and concepts were introduced, especially at being Cooley Boulevard and at Freeport Street. Would just like to see some detail on that, either updated to the commission separately or at our next meeting, if we can pull one off in June, and hopefully have some fact-based engineering backed rationale around that space. I know we're talking about the timeline, but since it was brought up, I just wanted to bring it up simultaneously. And you know, I had some real concerns about those two spots specifically. Was very pleased to see the U-turn be included out of Old Colony and Savin Hill for all those different iterations, but would like to see some further design, and agree again with Arthur that the sooner we kind of pare it down, which is obvious to everybody, in this virtual room, that the sooner we pare it down, the sooner we can get into some real meaty fact-based engineering design schematics around that. So just wanted to mention that while we were on the topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Any other questions or comments from the commissioners?
Yeah, Councilor Fitzgerald here. Just want to chime in. Thank you, Secretary. Just want to go on record, on board with the scheduling and the deadlines and the scheduling and such, and trying to get some future committee meetings, commission meetings on the calendar, just so folks are aware. Also, just want to bring up the fact, as many of you know, June 10th, we'll be holding sort of our own community meeting. And the idea is to just focus in on the different design iterations of the roadwork along Morrissey, to kind of say, all right, these are the options. Which ones do we like? Why do we like them? Why do we not like them? And that way, in our next full commission sponsored meeting, we should have a lot more understanding of what the community would like to see. And so that pared down that Representative Hunt was talking about, hopefully that this meeting on June 10th will pare it down so that we can start to get into the meat a little bit more in these future meetings. So therefore see action a little bit sooner, which is, I think, what everyone wants to happen. And of course, to stay on the schedule that we've put forth. So I'm excited about the June 10th meeting. I think it'll build some coalition around at least one way or another of what we want to see, and we can start to work off that. So excited for the extension and excited to see this process conclude by the end of the year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Senator Collins.
Thank you, Secretary. And I want to thank Council Fitzgerald for pulling that meeting together. I think it does help with continuity for the community to weigh in, even though we're, having the discussion here about extension. And also to put in perspective that this stuff does take time. Once construction, even construction plans are in place. I want to thank Rep. Hunt for his work on all this, but if you see the extension of the Greenway across Morrissey, that began many years ago with his early leadership, and these construction projects do take time, but hopefully if we are able to collectively with consensus come up with a set of recommendations that are achievable, we can pursue the funds that are available at the federal level, and that's what I really hope we can do. In addition, I think Rep. Hunt brought up before, is there a way that we can, well, I guess is there a way we can identify whether it's the state's capital plan or federal grants, if we have deadlines for that where the state has to apply for things, and so I don't know if there are any deadlines in the calendar year that at the federal level that require us to submit applications. I know that's the case, for instance, down in different part of my district, Massport's pursuing some grants in and around clean ports. There's a deadline associated with that. I don't know if there are deadlines associated with resiliency, excuse me, and transportation infrastructure grants. So I want to just be mindful of are those along the way. Can and should the commission weigh in collectively in support? And does that require sort of an increased percentage of design or build? More of a question.
David, can you answer that?
Sure, Secretary. So there are many different federal programs, discretionary programs, all of which have their own application deadlines, and none of which have the same application deadline in any given year. So we don't actually have any look-ahead deadlines other than a few programs. And again, it's equally true that they're all sort of different levels of design are required and different levels of permitting are required for each of them. But many of them, if you're seeking construction funding, you need to have, conceptual / 25% design, and you need to have at least started the permitting process. But that's a general rule, not, there are lots of programs and lots of different requirements.
Thank you.
Yep. Now, Secretary, on the other issue of setting meeting dates,
Yes.
We probably can't set dates today because we have to pull the commissioners and make sure what dates work. But if the commissioners want us to commit to, we'll have a meeting the second week of July in order to allow the meeting that's happening on June 10th to actually happen and get some, something to happen and do something to be ready to talk on in July. We could have a meeting the second week of July or the third week of July as the commissioners determine today. I think would skip August because, to Representative Hunt's point, usually we try not to have public meetings in August. If the commission wants us to meet in August, we certainly can, and we should. I think what we would propose is we should set a schedule that says in either the second or third week of the following months the commission is going to meet, and that would be July. Again, we would recommend not August, but if the commission wants August, we will be here. September, October, and then that would leave us time for another meeting at the second week of November if necessary, or we can go ahead and set a meeting in November too. Staff can accommodate that meeting schedule or any portion of that meeting schedule as the commission determines.
Thank you, David. Commissioner Baker?
Yes, the June 10th meeting, it's the first I'm hearing about it. Is that a full commission meeting or what is that meeting?
So, Commissioner Baker, I could speak to that. So that is the community meeting that was asked for in between when originally there was only supposed to be 4 commission meetings and this deadline that's approaching at the end of this month. Folks felt that there wasn't enough meat on the bone of earlier presentations and they wanted some more time to go over it. So they asked to convene a sort of separate non-official meeting of the community where we will go over the previous slides from other commission meetings, sort of talk about what the community would like to see, pros and cons of each iteration that was presented, et cetera, and we'd move on from there. But at least we would be able to go into that next commission meeting with a much more coalesced community about what we're pushing for.
And is the state going to be present at that?
So that's a good question. I actually don't know. What we did is we invited some experts in key areas, not to present, but to be there in case there were questions from the community. So I'll be running the meeting in coordination. BPDA will be there as well. BTD will be there. We have a representative from Water and Sewer there. And state, I don't know, you guys could actually answer. I don't know if it's better to have you in the room or not have you in the room for this type of thing. But I think originally, I don't think you were intended to come, but of course, if you would like to come and sit in the room and watch as well, just to hear for folks, but I don't intend you guys to present anything, obviously, as it's not an official commission meeting.
Right. So, Councilor, we will certainly come if you determine it's appropriate, and we would not expect to present. We would, however, be there to answer questions if people had questions. But that, we want this to be a local meeting with a local perspective driven by local concerns. So if you want us there, we'll come. If you think it's better we don't, that's perfectly acceptable to us. And you tell us what our involvement should be, and that's what we'll do.
Great. I'll get back to you on that offline. Just want to talk to a couple more people about what they feel. Because I've talked to some, there's a couple more I got to touch base with, but I will let you know, and I do appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
No worries.
Well, if I can weigh in a little bit on that, I think the state should definitely be there because it's all state roads. So why would we be talking about something and making recommendation if the state isn't there to at least hear it, at least have an ear? I think the state needs to have representation there. Thank you.
And you may be right, Commissioner Baker. That may be exactly the way we go, but we want to give the opportunity. Is this sort of a huddle up on our own and discuss it and then come back to the table? Or is this we want them there as we do our huddle up? And so I think that's just the fine line we got to decide. But I would tend to lean it might just be good to have them there for their expertise and to answer any technical questions that the community may have. So, and to hear it. So I think you're right.
Thank you, Councilor.
Before we go on, could I just ask one other thing? To Commissioner Baker's point about Kosciuszko Circle and the separate process that's running there and its connection, do we have anything to present at this June 10th meeting, or is there that 15% design or wherever that process might be at? Because I know it's sort of, going along with this process parallel. But to Commissioner Baker's point, it's very important to know if we're deciding this version or this version of where the U-turn happens along Morrissey, those decisions would be based on sort of what we understand might happen at K Circle. At least have that in our mind while we make these decisions. I don't know if there's anything to present, no matter how minimal.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you. That was a question. Thank you.
And I think, Counselor, that's a question we're going to have to take back to the K Circle team, because again, I don't want to promise anything we can't deliver. So let us find out, and we'll be in touch with you directly.
No, I appreciate it. And of course, it's, just to keep the community informed, and so we can make the best decisions that make sense for the whole, commission as well. That's all. But
Yeah,
thank you very much
absolutely.
for looking into that. Appreciate it.
Thank you, David. Any other questions or comments from the commissioners? Okay.
Motion.
Does anyone have a motion to extend the deadline? Or to make the recommendation to extend the deadline?
Sure. Well, go ahead, Senator.
No, please.
This is Dan Hunt. I'd make a motion to request that the legislature extends the Morrissey Boulevard Commission reporting deadline to the end of the year, December 31st, with the hope that we would have wrapped up all active community meetings by the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and leave it up to the legislature to potentially amend those dates if needed.
Second.
Ethan, can you call the roll, please?
Most definitely. Excuse me. Commissioner Osgood.
Yes.
Commissioner Baker.
Aye.
Commissioner Mullen.
Yes.
Commissioner Arrigo.
Yes.
Commissioner Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Commissioner Hunt.
Yes.
Commissioner Tibbetts-Nutt.
Yes.
And Commissioner Collins.
Aye.
Motion passes. Back to you, Secretary.
Thank you.
Actually-
We will, sorry, go ahead, Ethan.
I apologize. I was actually going to, if you'd like me to take the public comment side, but if you'd like to take it, that's your.
Oh, no, I was just going to pass it back to you. So,
Okay.
Ethan, please.
Thank you. Sorry. Okay, so we have about 8 minutes left in our meeting for any public comment. And I think we have next slide for Zoom operation. There we go. So we do have some, looks like we have already a question and answer here. So submit your questions using the question and answer button. Raise your hand to be unmuted if you'd like to actually speak verbally. Again, please state your name before you speak, so we know for the record who is speaking, and we can put that into the transcript. Please share only one question, comment at a time, limit to 2 minutes so that we don't have much time left. And so to ask a question, please feel free to dial 9 and the moderator will call out. Let's see. Michaela, it looks like we have...
We have a raised hand from
raised
Don
hand.
Walsh.
There we go.
Don, you should have a notification on your screen to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Can you see me? There's something I would like to show everybody. Can you put me on screen? Well, while you're trying to put me on screen, I'm absolutely shocked to hear today that the Kosciuszko Circle is not part of this study. I think that's absolutely ridiculous and is totally inconsistent what we, the public, have been led to believe. And I'd like to show you the what you handed out at the, I just happen to have this in front of me, at the meeting number 2, which says right at the very top, K Circle, Morrissey Boulevard corridor study. My assumption that Nick and Frank and Dan put together, it was shortened to Morrissey Boulevard, but the key concern was K Circle through Morrissey Boulevard. And that's what we have been led to believe, that the DOT is studying and working on. How do you fix our traffic nightmare, which is absolutely led by Kosciuszko Circle? And I tell you, I'm absolutely shocked to hear today for the first time that the DOT is not including Kosciuszko Circle in the study. That's outrageous. It's irresponsible. You're not showing, I want to show this. You can't show this? I mean, I've got the whole thing. I just want to show you. I'm not making this up.
The format of a webinar, Don, I don't believe you can share
All
screen.
right, all
The
right,
way
all
the
right,
Zoom
all right.
controls
So let's
are
go back.
function.
Let's go back to when you're showing your own things in that diagram that you have up there. It is a diagram. The upper left is Kosciuszko Circle with the 4 egresses on it. So we have been led to believe and told by DOT and everybody else that really what's being studied is Kosciuszko Circle and Morrissey Boulevard. And for you to say right now, tonight, you're not doing Kosciuszko Circle, it's a disgrace. You should be ashamed of yourselves. You're not doing your job. You're not doing what again, what's the Senator Collins, what Frank Baker, Dan Hunt, and Dave Beal put together through that legislation, led by Kosciuszko Circle and Morrissey Boulevard. I'm outraged. All right, that's it.
Don, if I could respond to that just at a high level. I know there's sort of a long history to both the commission and the study process and the K-Circle project development. But one thing I'd like to sort of, I know in a transportation environment, it's hard necessarily to convey how the inner workings are, but I guess I would like to convey that the K-Circle project is actually ahead of us in terms of process. Right now, I'm in the planning department. So we are pre-project development, we are conceptual. We look at a whole, a wide range of alternatives at a conceptual level. And the K-Circle project is actually in project development process. It is initiated and it's moving along. So it's actually ahead of us. So I understand that the frustration at the community level and also we've heard it from the commissioners, but I would like to reiterate that project is actually ahead of us. So it's kind of it's a good thing, even though it doesn't seem like it from the way we approach the study process. But because that is project development and we're in planning, we have to defer to a process that is ahead of us. So what comes out of that process is what feeds into ours in a way. So it is a back and forth. And we understand it's a challenge. So we're trying to work with both projects together, if that helps. And
Ethan, if I could just chime in there.
Yes, most definitely.
Sorry. If it's ahead of us, we have nothing to show the community though. If it is ahead of our process, there's still nothing that we could I understand you guys not wanting to, show overpromise anything.
Right.
But at the same time, to understand anything, and if the process is that far ahead, there's got to be something to show.
Understood. So again, as David noted, we'll circle back internally and talk to that team and see what we can sort of work with them on what could be shown potentially in the future.
Thank you.
Okay. We have time for one more question from attendees. Looks like we have Linda Freeman. Kayla, if you want to handle the unmuting.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I would like to see, and I'm sure the rest of the public would like to see, some kind of design or like plan A, plan B, plan C of the entire thing. Why? Because you will have those who travel into town irregularly, and if there are changes going on, they have to know which direction to go instead of going into a circle and going, which direction am I going, and not jam the whole circle or create an unfortunate accident. Everybody has been in a massive hurry, and everybody wants to be first to wherever their destination is. It's nuts, and you all know that. I travel through that, the K circle up and down Morrissey Boulevard, Gallivan Boulevard, at least 2 to 3 times a month. And I find it a nightmare getting through the circle because everybody wants to be getting to where they want and want to cut you off, even if you have signals on. Then we're on an increase of those who don't want to use signals and like to clip people off. It's like unreal. It also impacts getting to Day Boulevard, also getting over to the BTU when there's events or functions occurring as well. And those who like to get all the way over to Sullivan's. Then you have the Moakley Park. You have that entire area. All it takes is one accident in that circle and the whole thing is like everything going in and out nearly collapses because the rubbernecking is outrageous. But thank you.
Thank you. So Michaela, actually Patrick, advance slide, please. So that's the end of our meeting. We've run out of time, and there are actually no more questions from the public.
Ethan,
So I want to turn it. Yes.
we do actually have a question in the question answer from Marta Carney. It says, future Zoom meetings, please allow us to see our community on these calls. If we can't be in person, allow us to see each other, ... The head nods, etc. are important. It seems one-sided. Please share attendees.
Okay.
Just a comment that came in.
Thank you. I actually want to turn it back to the secretary to close the commission meeting out before I speak to this slide. Oh, I'm sorry. Looks like the secretary has.
Yes, even I think the secretary had to leave. I just got a text. So the secretary had to leave, and I will again take over for a few minutes or a minute or two. I want to thank everybody for coming. I thank you all for your discussion. And Ethan, go ahead and tell people how to reach us. And
Yeah.
I think it's fairly clear that everyone should plan on a meeting in July. We will give everybody notice as soon as we can poll the commissioners about the timing of that meeting.
Yes, thank you. This has been a lot of good information for us to figure out our path forward. So if you feel free to submit anything in writing via US mail, we have an email address here. You can submit email comments, and I think many people have already, and we do reply. And if you'd like to go to the study website or use the QR code. So again, thank you everybody for coming, and have a good day.
Bye everyone, thank you.
Thank you.